We have a lot to say to you today, so sit in a good spot to get the most enjoyment in this moment that we share together. We love these times where your consciousness engages with our communications, and the thoughts that live in the space between the here and there generate realities of potential, where for the most part you welcome yourselves into a future of empowerment and harmonic intra-awareness. By extending your ability to comprehend the impulses that take the form of words, it may be necessary to come face to face with the centuries of belief that safeguard the inner sanctum of your mind. In such a case, remember, there is nothing to fear and everything to celebrate, for you are in that encounter meeting an opportunity to rebuild your framework of understanding and, in a sense, polish the lens through which the light of knowingness shines from within the heart of all. Such guardians of mind are constructs of protection, yet if you have no need of safety in a singularity of knowing yourself as love incarnate, they are without a purpose and can retire in peace to the land of outworn modalities, there to dissolve in the reverberations of job well done. So, if such a chance encounter pops up in the course of contemplating our message, be assured it is with all due respect that we say, do the thing that leads to greater understanding, notwithstanding the old beliefs that served a limited interface of times gone by. Be bold, dear ones, and let your truth reveal itself in greater brilliance to you. One day, in the deep shadows of a cryptically quiet forest, dwelt a little man in a cottage he had fashioned out of the twisted branches he had found in abundance near the banks of a stream. Long, long ago had he labored to weave together the intricacies of nature's growth into sturdy walls and roof to give himself a quiet place amid the quiet outside. A place to think it was, and a place from which the revelations of light periodically could be gleaned from where the sun pierced the open spaces in the walls where the branches didn't quite fit together. He loved his little cottage, and found it to be comfortable enough even in the storms that blew through with increasing regularity. Though the winds would shake the very roots of the cottage, he believed the foundations of the place were strong enough to hold his little thought space intact. Little did he know that on the horizon a storm was brewing that would shake the forest itself to its core, and when in thundering suddenness it struck, he found himself surrounded by a pile of sticks, with a very few pillars and joists still maintaining their vigilance in being the framework they had been set to be. As the sky cleared and the immensity of the storm began to become apparent all around him, he furiously began to gather what sticks remained and piece them together into some semblance of the structure they had been before. It was no use, he realized, and as he dropped to the ground, exhausted and bewildered, the remaining particles of his home crashed around him in a cloud of dust. So he sat and contemplated in a puddle of sticks and sunlight, for the winds in their fury had stripped the forest of its canopy of leaves, and now the light from above was streaming through unhindered. As the warmth of the sun's rays penetrated his bent and bowed neck, some part of his innerness began to relax. There was little he could do but receive the light. There was nowhere else to go. As he sat, he settled into a realization that everything he had relied upon to protect him from the elements was suddenly and most assuredly gone. Could he blame the wind? What good does that do? He said to himself in quick reflex. Surprising even himself with such a candid answer, he let his thoughts flow. There was no one to blame. The wind was stronger than his carefully constructed walls. That was simple and complete. The wind had no expectation, and so, he decided, neither should he. He sat and released all the mental files in his memory banks that held the blueprints for his former cottage, and directed his attention toward the photonic stream of data that was pouring into him from above. His form became filtered into pure energetic self-sufficiency, and around him swirled the particulate matter of reflected Om stuff, itself glowing in the sun-infused space where he sat. This continued for some time, and when at last he opened his eyes, he gasped. All around him now appeared a home without structural supports, without beams, without nails, without the girding and gaps that his last home had. Arcing overhead from every side was a perfectly parabolic dome, the shape of a mind space, with the toroidal emanations of his heart magnified in all directions. It was lit from within by a soft yet persistently powerful glow that cast no shadows and revealed an opalescent shimmer of living energies coalesced into a thought-enhancing field. What a place in which to dwell, he thought, and instantly found himself at peace. We hope you enjoyed our telling of this tale. Our intent, beyond helping you relax for a moment from the day-to-day excitement of living in the matrix of Earth, was to instill the imagery of what it is to live in the era of sudden relinquishment of structure, whether that is of beliefs or of some physicality. Your world is in flux in so many ways, we see, and we understand the stresses that the winds of change can bring upon a mind grown comfortable in a set of structured beliefs, no matter how sturdy and deep the foundations. The difference between belief and knowingness is like the difference between living in a house or breathing one's life within a fabric of elemental unification so shimmering with light that all else blends in seamless understanding into a living opalescence. It is the difference between self-expression and self-integration, the subtle shift from perception to seeing in the timeless moment of now, the eternity of now outside of time's confines. In fact, it is the movement from within definition into is. Strip down all of the layers of definition with which you interact in your various spheres of influence, and you will approach authenticity of who you are in the context of knowingness, in the is. In truth, is has nothing by which to define itself, yet it is itself knowingness unencumbered by the weight of belief. It is in knowing that you are. What happens when all of a sudden the rug is ripped out from under your feet, your carefully laid plans go flying away on the wings of the unexpected, and you find yourself amid the rubble of a once sturdy belief structure? You have options. You are certainly able to say, well, after all, I did save some memories to comfort me in whatever comes next. Or you can walk away from everything and trust that the winds that follow will bring with them a good reason to keep living. Or you can simply mourn your misfortune for the rest of your days. There are many options, and while moments of mourning do follow loss, there is little need to think that the loss of belief is equivalent to the loss of one's life and breath. You have, many of you, mourned the loss of belief in mythical figures conjured into adult minds to aid children's behavior, with the promise of sweet surprises. Likewise, many of you have taken that further and let go of the belief, and good riddance, that you must deserve some reward before receiving it, based on the judgment of an outside superior authority. How many of you have gone yet further and relinquished the comfortable belief that all will be well, that your prayers will be answered, and that in the end there will be some triumph of good over evil with happiness forever after, for your soul's rest? If that suggestion shocks you, let us continue with the counterpoint, which is, have you entertained the thought that in place of such a belief, that a knowingness of love's succor will sustain life in all its forms and varieties? Ponder a moment the implications of such a swap, and take another look around at the walls you have constructed over time, no matter how temporary you told yourself they might be, no matter how absently you allowed the bricks and mortar of habitual thought to stack up around you in an invisible yet very limiting cage. It doesn't take long, you know, just a hope untrusted, just a tiny thought that someday something good might happen. After all, you deserve it, after all you've been through. Dear ones, listen. You have it all already in the timeless now from which you source. If you don't see what you want, know it is in some form already there, at the end of a path, or already in the palm of your hand, hidden perhaps in something you don't recognize. If you can know in your bones that the future is bright, you are able to be there in the now moment you occupy. for there is no separation from the is other than a matrix space of temporality, and that is merely a function of experience. You are always in connection with the authenticity of being, and in truth, you are a representation of that in your reality now. Do you know that? Tap into your heart, dive past the gateways of belief, and see what you find there. In the face of engagement with your truth, no wind, however fierce, and no act of unplanned impermanence will touch you. In the face of the authentic self, a Zen calm penetrates even the most turbulent chaos. God knows, you are fond of saying in various ways according to the belief structures upon which you drape your language. Are you willing to step away from that? Do you believe you will fall into a chasm of perdition if you do? Or maybe it's like taking a step away from the Easter Bunny, which you know doesn't exist, at least not in the traditional coloring book kind of way. Heck, while you're at it, step away from that circle of thinking where you believe that we exist too. We don't ask you to believe in us, in our reality, or even in our words. We would much prefer that you rely on your knowingness for such things, for we don't want to bear the weight of helping you construct yet another structure to shelter your mind from the light of understanding itself. When you step outside of such thought forms and patterned dances of mind, pure knowingness engages with the light that lives in every particle of your beingness. Engage with that authentic self, and remember who you are. The times that are coming will be easier to navigate, the lighter you are.